let this life be expressed through you as you want and as makes you happy. You know, happiness and all these beautiful emotions are basically frequencies. And us feeling these higher, more elevated emotions is basically the indication that we receive from our instrument telling us, yes, you're on the right track. You're going where you're supposed to go. And that's what life's purpose for me is, to just be happy, first of all, healthy and happy, and to bring more and more of that, to follow that more and more.
Shimrit Nativ is a success and freedom mentor, CEO and founder of Master Your Path Academy. Having built a six-figure business in a matter of months when she first started out, with no prior experience, Shimrit is the perfect example of what's possible when you have a desire and a drive to create a significant impact. As a transformational and success coach and a mindset expert, Shimrit has helped hundreds of driven and creative individuals across the globe create and sustain a consistent baseline of confidence, success, and fulfillment. Accredited and certified ICF professional, Proctor Gallagher consultant, and a neurochange solutions consultant in training with Dr. Joe Dispenza. Welcome, Shimrit.
Thank you so much, Rose. I'm excited to be here.
And I'm excited that you are here today. So we're going to just dive right in. You've had a very interesting journey with many transformations. I was reading your bio and I've been looking at your website. Can you start by telling us a little bit about your personal path and how you went from being a musician, which I found fascinating, to living in nature and then building a six-figure business?
Yes. All right. Well, I first lived in nature, actually, and then I became a musician. So I moved out to live kind of off grid in my very early 20s. So it was really a relationship that took me there. I lived there for 5 years, collecting or chopping wood for fire and cooking on fire and warming the water for the bucket shower on the fire, and
Wow.
collecting herbs and growing vegetables. And it was a very different life than what I'm leading today over
Can I
20.
ask where it was in nature? Where were you?
It was in Israel. So I'm originally from Israel. I live in Germany now for the past 8 years. We had electricity, so we had light, and we had a fridge, and we had cold tap water, one tap with cold water, and that's it. So no like real structure, like nothing really, no bed, no,
Ah.
nothing like that, no proper kitchen, no toilet, no shower.
And were you by yourself or were you in a relationship at the time?
I was in a relationship. So I
Okay.
basically joined who then was my partner, and we lived there together for a few years.
Wow. That's very brave. I don't know how many
Yes.
people would do that. I think, that is the far side of glamping, which is, luxury, living in nature. And I give
Yeah.
you a lot of credit for that because
Thank you.
I guess you listened to some kind of inner calling that must have
Mhm.
helped shape or transform or give you some guidance as to what you would do eventually, or at least an experience like that maybe helped you in other areas of your life. And then how did that lead to your being a musician?
I always wanted to play the flute. I had a flute, but I've never gotten to really play it. So it was kind of like a desire, a passion that I didn't fulfill. I started playing music. I started playing the flute basically, and that's what I did. So he would hammer and do all of the very noisy actually activities in his artistic work, and I would play the flute. And I taught myself how to play, and I became more and more and more passionate
Right,
about it. And
right.
so eventually that led me to choose that as a career path and leave this lifestyle so I can go into, university and like the music academy and become a professional musician.
Wow, it's a great story. I love that.
Yeah.
So you've, at a very young age, you've transformed yourself many times. You followed a path to being a musician, and then, yeah. So it's I've talked a lot about on my show about reinventing yourself, and it seems like
Mhm.
it's really lovely to be able to embrace these new opportunities and these uh, goals, and that you've manifested so much for yourself in your life. And you mentioned, or in the bio, I mentioned that you built a six-figure business. And what was that
Yeah.
business? And how was that journey for you?
So this is fast forwarding over 20 years forward. I always had this other gift and passion, um, which is to help people, and I always knew since a very, very young age, I had this ability to really feel someone's, inner state and read their thoughts almost, and find a way to talk to them and connect to them in a language that is matching their own kind of private, inner world.
Vibration.
Yeah, and help them, express themselves in different ways and overcome. So I've always had that. Um, and I always had this passion that I believe its seed were really planted in me in a very young age, even before coming into this world. It's part of really my kind of life path, life contract. As I was pursuing my musical career for many years and recording and teaching and performing and touring, and I got tired, and kind of my passion for the career aspect of this was turning off, and this other kind of fire started burning stronger, and it took me some time to realize that, and I needed some few kind of directions from from life inside and out to kind of make it very clear that this is now the path I am to take. I paused, and there was a time of stillness and a lot of unknown, yeah, and uncertainty. And I was just asking for guidance, from universe, higher self, and it came in different ways. Through dreams, through insights, and different tools that I used that I already had in my toolkit because of my own personal journey and healing, and such. And yeah, and then I started taking some courses and getting certifications and started working with people here in my community in Berlin. I started seeing the impact that this work creates and on other people, and I really was feeling called to do that on a bigger scale and create a bigger impact and reach more people.
Yeah. So you were intuitively guided for a long time to follow this path. As a young child, and for some reason I need to feel that I need to ask this. As a young child, you always felt that you had some kind of inner guidance, right? That you
Yeah,
were meant to be on this path. Maybe you didn't know it at the time.
exactly.
Was it something that you were able to explore as a young child and share, or just like it was personal?
Um, I think it's neither, because as you also suggested, I wasn't really aware of that. So, when I was able to kind of say something true about someone else, of
Right.
then my parents, yeah, would say, "Wow, that's amazing. Like, how do you know these things?" But I wasn't really aware of that, and neither were they really. It was just like a remark, and
Gotcha.
like my parents, I have amazing parents, and they always loved me and appreciated me and admired me. So it was kind of like, how they would admire me getting great grades, or I don't know what, or saying something clever, then it would be
Yeah.
that, but it wasn't specifically
Like,
recognized by them or by me. Um, and so, yeah, I wouldn't say it was something that I always knew I had, but more that looking back, I can see how from a very young age, this path was already assigned to me.
yes. Okay, that's great. Yeah, and I think that happens with a lot of people as well. They really don't recognize it as they're going through it, so it's not really nurtured at that time, but they
Mhm.
revisit it and go back when it's the right time. and then you're made more aware of it. Now, when you were a musician and you were going through your, all your concerts, for you, this was a business. Did you find that you were just, when you said you needed a change, was it burnout? Was it more like, I need something different. I feel a different calling inside, like you mentioned, life contract. What was that
Mm-hmm.
sensation? Because I know you work a lot with people who experience burnout in their lives. And I was just
Yeah.
wondering if it was just based on your own personal experience.
I did experience a very massive burnout, but not as a musician, actually later in my business, in my coaching business. As a musician, it wasn't exactly a burnout, but it was like the resistance to specifically going on tours grew stronger and stronger. And I really didn't want to go. And it got to a point where I would really I would pack, to go the next day for a few days on tour. And I would I don't want to do this. I would really work through an inner resistance until there was one tour that I really didn't want to go. I was literally crying while I was packing. And in the morning, I got myself all pumped up. Okay, we're doing this. Let's go. And I got on the train to go to the airport, and I was, all getting myself ready, getting into that mindset and flow. And then I got to the airport and discovered that I'm at the wrong airport. So I went to the wrong airport. And that was the pivotal moment. So I was, I felt so stupid and frustrated and everything. And I canceled that tour. So I did not try to get to the next gig on that tour. I said, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. I canceled the tour. I canceled all future tours. And that was it.
Well, yeah. And I think that the universe was definitely telling you, um, you know, y- you're not supposed to go on that tour and that you need
Yeah.
a shift and change because you wound up at a different airport. And there's a lot of symbolism with, being at an airport and planes flying and
Yeah.
changing direction. Yeah. So burnout is a real thing because it's not just people who work in careers, although there's a lot of people in careers that are experiencing burnout because you need to be on task, like constantly connected, constantly, but also mothers, young mothers, even mothers at work and raise children experience burnout. A lot of women experience burnout. A lot of my audience are women who have worked in corporate for a long time and need a change. So you help people make that change or transform or find that in their lives that they need to work on or work with.
Yeah, I would say that most of the people I work with are women, first of all, not only, but very mostly, like 99%. And mostly women who are exactly like they want to change, they have a calling, but they haven't been following it or answering it, and are kind of on this path of
Right.
working and paying bills and taking care of the family, and they're done not with taking care of the family and paying bills, but sacrificing for all of that, right? And they're ready for a change and for to really go answer that calling. So yeah, that's the majority of people that I work with. And then it many times goes together with burnout.
You combine spirituality and science in your work. Talk a little bit
Mm-hmm.
about how these two approaches come together and why it's so important for transformation.
Yeah. I think they are both talking about the same thing. I mean, spiritual science is catching up with spirituality, if you will, to explain life, right? So science in the last few decades is actually closing the gap and finding answers. I mean, science purpose in general is to find answers and explanations to natural phenomena, right? So it's catching up in its ability to find explanations to this phenomena called life, which is far beyond Newtonic physics that we were all brought up on, visible and
Right.
measurable results or expressions or data. Quantum physics and quantum mechanics, which is really the new science in the last few decades, is showing us how actually everything is created from the same formless substance, energy. And everything is first created in the unified or quantum field and then projected to this level of reality that we can then perceive with our physical senses, what we call matter. So we know now scientifically that everything in the materialistic world, the physical materialistic world that we perceive with our five physical senses, is actually energy condensed, energy collapsing into matter. And science knows better and better to explain that process. And so you can call it energy and the unified or quantum field, and that's perfect. But actually, when you say spirit, you talk about the same thing, or I would even say when you say God. So this can be a very, loaded word,
Right.
maybe more than spirit. So we don't have to use that, but it's all the same thing, right? It's the same universal consciousness, intelligence that is what you can call God. And this energy is what you can call spirit. And it's what everything is made of. So to the second part of your question, why is it so important to transformation? Because we as a society and as a culture are so programmed for generations to rely on the physical evidence and the empiric results. And so if we cannot, we say, I'll believe it when I'll see it, all kinds of stuff like that, which is actually the other way around, right? You believe it and then you see it. You change the energy, you change the energetic blueprints, and then you see it. And here is where things start blending, right? You can say words like, you believe it and then you see it, and it sounds like new age spiritual, talk. But actually, you can explain that with quantum mechanics and the observer effect and all of those things that are scientifically accepted, but only in the last few decades. So most of us, even all of us, I don't think they teach that yet in school, right? We were taught about Newtonic, you can calculate time and distance, and then things. We haven't been taught about the observer effect and stuff like that, and it's a newer information. And so even though it's scientifically proven, we still don't completely accept it. But because it is scientifically proven, we can more easily start opening up our minds to it and then believe it before we see it. And so in order to create transformation or to manifest something that you really want, you have to believe it. You have to create the inner changes in order for the external changes to occur. And if you are one of those people, like most people, not you, Rose, of course, but
Yeah.
if a person is one of those people that needs the physical evidence and needs to rely on science and so on, then that is why it's so important that we have that information and proofs and explanations so we can believe it more, so we can open up more to these truths and create real transformation.
And some of us have known this for a long time, even without all that scientific research. Like there are people, and I'm going to say people that I know, that I will talk about these things or have been talking about these things for a long time. But unless a book comes out by some authority or some doctor or some scientist that says this is what's going on, I've been saying that for a long time. I'm sure you have too, right? So they're just finally catching up.
Exactly.
Or, that's great. Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You have worked with a personal mentor of yours, Bob Proctor, who wrote the book, You Were Born Rich. So now we're going to go back to how you were able to successfully create your own personal business. How did working with a mentor, and I'm bringing this up because when you find the right teacher or the right guide or the right coach, it can really make a difference.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. The huge difference. I think it's really essential. I always say I would never have been here where I am on all aspects of my life without the mentors that I've had the privilege to work with. Bob is one of them for sure. I found Bob when after my burnout. So I started my business in the first year. I invested in different programs to learn how to build the business, right? As I said, I had no experience. I had a lot to learn. I was very determined, very motivated, I had clear goals. And so I didn't feel like I need mindset. I was like, let's go, let's do this. My mindset is here. It's strong. Let's go. And I didn't realize that I was operating on a belief system, on a subconscious program, basically, that would actually limit me from reaching my goals or sustaining them. Not because I lacked motivation or clarity or action taking or all of those things, but just because that's where it was set, that subconscious program. And so I worked very hard. I invested in all these programs. I implemented everything I was taught. I reached the goal, right? I wanted 6 figures in the first year. I reached that, but I burned out. So something in my belief system and in my self-concept, in my subconscious programming, in other words, was set in a way based on, my environmental conditioning growing up, was set in a way that did not allow me to create success with ease, without sacrifice, and to actually sustain it because of that, because you cannot sustain sacrifice and you burn out, right?
Right.
So, or you pay some price that eventually you can't continue paying.
Right.
So that's what happened to me. And it took me some time to listen to my body and, and not fight it. But when I eventually had to stop, like the physical symptoms in my skin specifically were so strong that I had to stop, and I had to basically pause my business completely. I had already a team. I had to let go of everyone, stop marketing, advertising. Like I had to really, really, really slow down. And then I realized, okay, I have a great mindset. Amazing, but I need to do some deeper work that I have to now focus on, and I need new tools and new guidance. And that's what led me to Bob. So, yeah.
Was there any inner child work involved here? Are you able to maybe talk a little bit about what that subconscious programming that was keeping you from or created these physical issues?
Yeah, well, actually, with Bob, there was no inner child work. He's not into these things at all. Was not. He died obviously in 2022. But no, actually, I've done a lot of inner child work earlier in my life. So still as a musician, 10 years or more early or before all that, I had another physical condition that woke me up to a very deep healing work and transformation. And then inner child work was a very, very big factor or part of it. And of course, it continues to be, and it's part of my teaching. But specifically around my burnout and working with Bob, first, what really allowed me to shift the subconscious programming was not so much the inner child work, and much more the understanding in a new, different way and level, how that subconscious programming was created. It was both Bob and Dr. Joe Dispenza. At the time, I didn't yet work with Dr. Joe. I just read his books and did his online courses. And the combination of spirituality and science, which is really Dr. Joe's gift to the world, among a few others that do similar work. Really understanding the programming process, the universal laws, understanding them really on all these levels, both because I have a very strong left brain as well. Yeah. I'm a very spiritual person. I always have been, as we've shared, but I'm also a very analytical person. And I love my analytical mind, so I really enjoyed the knowledge and the satisfying that part of me. Right. And then Bob just made it so simple. He also always said, it's so simple, but so misunderstood. He made it so simple to understand how the subconscious mind works, how that subconscious program holds you back. He calls it the paradigm. And he used such a simple way of explaining it and of teaching and guiding how to then shift it and upgrade it and update it to your goals.
So Dr. Joe Dispenza, who a lot of people do know, he's written a lot of books, and you are studying with him to specifically neuro NCS, neuro change solutions. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because this is the first time I've heard about it, but I think if why don't you talk about it? Because I have a feeling I know what it is, but I haven't heard of this phrasing before. But if you can share what that is. And
sure, I did that. I don't do that anymore, but I did this training with Dr. Joe. So neurochange solutions is a term that Dr. Joe created for his program, basically, that he designed specifically for teams and organizations to teach his material in a very specific kind of capacity to create change in cultures. Of course, with the purpose, with the overarching purpose of creating change in our culture in general, which is, of course, what he's devoted to doing. But Neurochange Solution is a program specifically that he designed for this specific purpose and capacity. And so what I did was train with him in a small group of people to become a consultant. So basically to be able to teach this specific program in
corporate
teams. In corporates.
Yeah, teams.
Yeah. So okay. Dr. Joe is very, very adamant about who and how one can, teach his material. And so unlike Bob, for example, because I trained with Bob to become one of his consultants as well. And I did that for a long time until I developed my own thing. But Bob was very, just take this material and go. Let's change the world. It doesn't matter.
I love that. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Call it Bob, call it whatever. Actually, Bob always quoted his teachers and the books that he gave all of the credit to all of his knowledge and teachings to his teachers,
right?
That he either worked with directly or that he learned from through the books that he read repeatedly over decades. Which is something I really, really loved about Bob. He was very, very humble and very, very generous. Of course, Dr. Joe is also very generous. It's not about comparing. I'm just saying it's a different approach. With Dr. Joe, you cannot just use his name. You cannot just go and teach his material. And to become a neurochange solution consultant, you only teach this training in such capacities that this training is designed and intended for. And this is why I did not continue with that, because I love working with individuals and I have my own program, and it just didn't feel like
that was the right thing for you. And that's perfect because, funny is I did a little video for social media this morning, and one of the things I was saying is you need to really be discerning who you receive messages from and who your teachers are, because you just want to adopt the right tools for yourself. What jives with you, I always say, what resonates with you, and not to say Dr. Joe is not right, but he's the structure. Yeah, of course.
I just want to say his tools and his teachings jive with me a lot, and I integrate so much from what I've learned from him in what I do. It's just that it didn't feel right to me, like career-wise, to pursue a very specific path of being a neurochange solution consultant and work in teams with this specific program. But the teachings are precious and changing the world. And
but now you have your teachings, right? So you have developed your program, and you have you've helped hundreds of clients transform their lives, and that's what I want to focus on now. What you have to offer, and what are some of the most powerful mindset reprogramming tools that you teach others or help others achieve, their personal transformation? Let's talk about what you offer.
Thank you. Well, as I said, it's really a compilation of many different teachings and tools and practices that I've gathered over a long, long, long time. You know, when I was in my 30s, I healed my own body from precancerous lesions that I had in my cervix, and I used the inner child, a lot of inner child practices and dream work and other, you know, modalities. And so really it's from a very long lifelong journey that I've gathered all kinds of tools and you know, awareness and understanding and experience. It has evolved into a formula, really. So there is an 18 steps formula that I call WISE. And RISE stands for relationship, income, success, and empowerment, because really you can use this formula to change all of these aspects in your life and to rise to higher and higher levels of self-expression, of freedom, of success, whatever it is basically that you want to rise to. I always say well-being is a skill. Freedom is a skill that you can practice and master. These are skills. Anyone and everyone can be free, and whatever freedom means to anyone, right? So if it's financial freedom, emotional freedom, time freedom, location freedom, it's a skill that you can practice and master, and you have the instrument already in your possession. It's your mind body. It's your human instrument, I call it. So speaking of spirit, as we spoke before, I believe we are spiritual beings. And if someone doesn't jive with that, then let's go to, you are an energetic being, like everything is, right? This pen is also an energetic being. It's just that it doesn't have a conscious mind. And we as humans have it. So we can form thoughts and we can move energy. And we have the instrument to do that. That's our human instrument that is designed to move and is moving energy from non-physical to physical all the time. It's just that most of us are doing that unconsciously, and even if consciously, by default, right? Because of lack of skill, that's all. So really what this is all about, the rise journey, the rise formula is developing the skill of the instrument, of the human instrument, so you can master your instrument and master freedom, master the skill of creating life as you desire and not by default.
Wow, it's beautiful. Is this do you do one-on-one coaching, or is this a group session or a course that you provide online?
It's all of the above. So there are different levels. One can, you know, join my world and work with me. My world is called Master Your Path. My last name Nativ is its meaning is path in Hebrew. Nativ is path. And so it's called Master Your Path, and it's an incredible community. You can also be part of the community without, you know, paying for any of the programs. Of course, there's a lot of free opportunities to learn and to integrate the learning and to receive also guidance from myself, from my team. And then there are different levels that you can join, you know, different programs from monthly membership to mastermind to one-on-one coaching. So it really depends,
It's nice that,
you know,
yeah.
how it fits and what one is looking for.
Yeah, it's nice that you offer different, you know, it's not just one thing. And because everybody is somewhere different in their lives,
Yeah.
right? And they want to be able to work with you, and then you offer all these different things. Do you still offer your free workshop all the way to the top?
Yes, absolutely. All the
Yeah,
way to the top. We run it free periodically, but we also have it recorded.
beautiful.
So I would love for people that if someone here is listening and wants to go a bit deeper, it's a 3 days workshop, and it's really people love it, and people really create shifts in just following that workshop. And you can always you know, reach out to me and receive some free guidance as you're going through the workshop. So I really recommend it. So the link will probably be in the notes
Yes,
of this
absolutely. I'm going to put
episode.
all your links. You have a lot of links. I'm going to put them all in there, and this one too.
Amazing.
And I'm gonna actually look into this one for myself, because I feel, no, you know, I know I've learned a lot of tools, and but it's never too late to pause and look at your life and where you're going and what's not working, and make those
Absolutely.
changes and those shifts to live a better life. I always say that I want to live the rest of my life, the best of my life.
I
And
love that.
yeah, so I am going to look into that myself. Is there
Oh,
anything else that you want to share with us before we wrap things up?
yes. Well, first of all, I just want to say that if a 3 days workshop sounds too much, too committing to someone, but they still want to, have a taste, you're very welcome to send me a message on Instagram. And there are free meditations. There are all kinds of things that I'm very happy to offer for free. But then again, I really recommend All the Way to the Top. It's really one of my favorite workshops. And what I would love to leave your audience with is, first of all, my gratitude for listening in and tuning into this conversation. I really appreciate that. And this, one of the last things I actually said, that remember that it's a skill. So whatever it is that you feel is out of reach or that you can't get to, or it's a skill, it's only a skill, which means that you can develop it. There's nothing stopping you other than some knowledge, some tools, some practice, but it's a skill that you can master.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I would love to leave anyone listening with.
I just want to add to that, and we could still talk, but as people get older, you know, they think that, well, I can't learn something new. I can't
Mhm.
remember this, or, it's just too much of an effort, but it's never too late.
It's never too late, and what else is there to do here? I mean, it's your life. It's your life, and it's happening now, and that is all you have, is that now. And what else? What's better than that? What can be a higher purpose or a more urgent priority than to let this life be expressed through you as you want, and as makes you happy? Happiness and all these beautiful emotions are basically frequencies, and us feeling these higher, more elevated emotions is basically the indication that we receive from our instrument telling us, yes, you're on the right track, you're going where you're supposed to go. And that's what life's purpose for me is, to just be happy, first of all, healthy and happy, and to bring more and more of that, to follow that more and more. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how old you are.
No,
We have people in our programs and in our mastermind 70 years old, after years in bed with a chronic back pain and just giving up on everything, and I don't know, something got them to join. And now I'm thinking of one specific person, right? As an example, she's now on stage, 70 years old, on stage, rock singer with a rock band, performing, reignited her love relationship that was already,
kind of dwindled.
yes,
Yeah.
and just living her best life,
I
writing a
love that.
book. There are so many stories, people getting off wheelchairs, people finally feeling the spark. And I'm not talking about young people. Most of my clients and our members in our community are 40 plus, many of them 50 plus, 60 plus. So of course it's never too late. What else is there to do here?
That's right. You got to live your best life. Like I said, I'm so glad that we
Exactly.
circled back to that, because it's really important, because life is not just for everyone that's young and coming up the, new experiences. It's just reinventing yourself and getting through the chronic pain and finding ways to just to, I don't know, be happy. Like you said, it's our God-given right to be
Yeah,
happy.
absolutely. Natural state.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this conversation, for this
Thank
chat. It's been
you.
such a pleasure having your energy is just amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
I
thank
really
you.
enjoyed it, Rose. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.